Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Standing by in the wings, we've got John Cornett and Jan Sue Hurst. Good evening, folks. And sitting next to me is a legend in his own mind and with his radio show Time for Hemp, Mr. Casper Leach. Hey, Casper. We have an amazing set of stories for our Hemp News segment tonight, and some video clips and some surprising show and tell items, or sharing, that's what they call it. When I was a kid, it was show and tell. Now it's sharing. But before we get to the news and the music and your calls, we're going to bring out our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, we have some news from here in the Northwest and some international news. Our first story tonight on the floor this evening is House Bill 3640, which would set up dispensaries here in the state of Oregon, licensed dispensaries. Just last week, the governor of Nevada signed a bill to allow the state of Nevada to license and regulate their medical marijuana dispensaries. And as we speak this evening, House Bill 3640 is on the floor of the House. It looks likely to pass. Its sponsor, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Peter Buckley, says it's going to the Senate and it's going to the governor's desk and it will become law. Earlier today, here in Oregon again, Senate Bill 40 passed by 43-16 and now goes back to the Senate for a concurring vote where it was passed already last week. But it passed in the Senate last week and they changed it a little bit in the House, so now it has to go back to the Senate. This vote will take place sometime next week, and then it'll on to the governor's desk. Senate Bill 40 defines marijuana and marijuana products and reduces the charge for cultivation of marijuana or manufacture to a Class B felony. Currently, it's a Class A felony. It also reduces unlawful possession to a Class C felony. Right now, possession of over 1 ounce. Once you go to 29 grams, it's a Class B felony. This reduces that to a lower status of crime, and it amends exceptions to the classification of cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. 4 years ago, the Oregon legislature directed the Board of Pharmacy to reschedule marijuana out of Schedule 1, saying it has no medicinal properties, to Schedule 2, and that created some disparities in the law, and this changes that. Our next story tonight is out of Mexico. Legislation is being prepared which would legalize marijuana in Mexico City. The left-wing party of the Democratic Revolution is working on the legislation, which lawmakers plan to introduce in September, reports the Huffington Post. It would allow people to grow cannabis at home, smoke it in designated clubs, and possess up to 25 grams. According to Mexico City Deputy Vidal Larenas, he says, quote, most marijuana consumers aren't addicts. They aren't criminals, and they're functional people, end quote. Earlier this month, ex-President Vicente Fox said marijuana should be legalized, saying that he'd grow it himself if it were legal. He appeared in Seattle with a fellow by the name of Shively, and Shively claims he's going to be creating a number of marijuana brands, and he's starting the Starbucks of marijuana. I wonder how the DEA looks at that, but more power to him. Hope he doesn't get locked in a small metal box. But back to Mexico, President Enrique Pena Nieto of the Institutional Revolutionary Party, the ruling party, or the PRI, doesn't see it that way. He said, quote, I'm not in favor because it's not just legalizing marijuana. Pena told CNN in December, it seemed to me that this would open up the possibility that some sectors of the population could wind up consuming much more harmful things, end quote. More than 70,000 people have died in the violence in Mexico since Pena Nieto's predecessor, Felipe Calderon, declared war on the drug cartels in 2006. Residents in Washington state who use cannabis as medicine are angry about an amendment that was quietly slipped into the Washington Senate bill and House budget bills, and it'll be they gathered from all over the state earlier this week in the Capitol on Wednesday, July 9th, for a rally to save medical cannabis in Washington. Patients are upset about an amendment that would put the control of their medical fate in the hands of the State Liquor Control Board. This amendment could fundamentally change every section of the state's current medical cannabis laws, according to the patient advocates. The regulations would include limits on age, the amount of medication a patient could have, which conditions would qualify, where they'd get their medication, and who could actually grow it. The Washington Liquor Control Board has already stated publicly that they believe the status of cannabis as a medication would be a threat to the Liquor Control Board's projected revenue stream from the sale of recreational marijuana to adults. Current Washington state law does not tax medications that require a health care provider's signature. This law could single out cannabis as the only medication in the state targeted for taxation. According to Ken Martin, a medical marijuana patient from Seattle, he said, quote, "I have a brain tumor, and they're going to decide how much medicine I need, and then they're going to tax it. I don't pay tax on any of my other medications. This is nothing more than greed on the part of the Washington Liquor Control Board and the state legislature," end quote. We have an amendment that has been added to the federal farm bill that allows colleges and universities to grow and cultivate industrial hemp in states where it's already legal without fear of federal interference. And it passed the U.S. House of Representatives on Thursday by a vote of 225 to 200. However, the farm bill was voted down earlier today because they would have cut over 2 million people out of the food stamps program. So a bipartisan group of people opposed the passage of the farm bill. So the good news is the House of Representatives voted by a vote of 225 to 200 to include industrial hemp in the farm bill. The bad news is, for the first time in over 100 years, they voted down the farm bill. But they're going to have to pass it eventually. Representative Jared Paulus of Colorado and Thomas Messi of Kentucky and our own Earl Blumenauer, Democrat from here in Portland, Oregon, introduced the amendment, H.R. 1947, the Federal Agricultural Reform and Risk Management Act of 2013, or the Farm Bill. In fact, we have some video about that we'll be playing a little bit later from Representative Blumenauer and others talking about this amendment. Our next story tonight is out of Denver, Colorado. Democratic Governor John Hickenlooper signed legislation, Colorado Senate Bill 241, into law, creating a new program within the Department of Agriculture to oversee the regulation of commercial hemp production. Hemp is a distinct variety of the plant species Cannabis sativa that, according to this law, can only contain less than 1% THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, the primary psychoactive ingredient in marijuana. Colorado Senate Bill 241 classifies cannabis possessing no more than 0.3% THC as an agricultural commodity and establishes a 9-member committee within the State Department of Agriculture in Colorado to oversee the creation of these new regulations. Unlike similar laws enacted in other states, Senate Bill 241 does not mandate farmers seeking state-issued hemp cultivation licenses to first gain federal approval. The U.S. Controlled Substances Act makes no legal distinction between marijuana and industrial hemp. The federal legislation, the Industrial Hemp Farming Act of 2013, to amend the Controlled Substances Act to exclude industrial hemp from the definition of marijuana, is pending before Congress. Our next story tonight is from Washington State. In a June 17th letter, 7 members of Washington's congressional delegation urged U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder and the Department of Justice to respect the will of the voters and honor Colorado and Washington's right to tax and regulate marijuana sales to adults. 7 months after the historic passage of Initiative 502 in Washington and Amendment 64 in Colorado, the U.S. Department of Justice has yet to indicate its intentions regarding the laws. The letter cites the expense already incurred in both states in implementation and lost potential for economic advancement as two compelling reasons the delegation desires a statement be made without further delay. Recreational marijuana sales in Washington are expected to begin in early 2014 unless the Department of Justice does something to stop that from happening. The letter from the 7 lawmakers from Washington and Colorado said, quote, "We urge DOJ to expeditiously announce a course of action that will respect the will of these voters and work cooperatively with our states during the implementation of these laws." Echoing one of the greatest concerns addressed by cannabis entrepreneurs, the letter from Senators Maria Cantwell and Patty Murray and Representatives Susan Delbean, Danny Hick, Derek Kilmer, Jim McDermott, and Adam Smith cites the inability of state-licensed marijuana businesses to access banking services as a central issue needing swift resolution. The letter was signed by all of Washington State's Democratic members of Congress, except Representative Rick Larson. Larson's spokesman, Brian Thomas, emphasized that marijuana remains illegal under federal law and that the Department of Justice is responsible for enforcing federal law. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Well, it's the opposite of leadership. None of the state's Republican representatives signed the letter, reports the Associated Press. Earlier this month, 36 representatives of the cannabis businesses participated in a press conference and meetings at the United States Congress to educate members of Washington's delegation and others regarding this issue. Speaking on behalf of its 200-plus member businesses, the National Cannabis Industry Association's executive director, Aaron Smith, said, quote, "We commend Senator Cantwell and Murray, the 5 members of Congress, for taking action to advance the will of Washington voters and support public safety in their state," end quote. Aaron Smith noted, quote, "Without clarification from the administration on banking policy, the legal cannabis industry may be forced to deal primarily in cash, putting owners and employees in an unnecessarily risky position and giving an advantage to criminal drug dealers who do not pay taxes or contribute positively to the community," end quote. The National Cannabis Industry Association, or NCIA, is a national trade association working to advance the interests of cannabis-related businesses in the United States. The NCIA promotes the growth of responsible and legitimate cannabis industry and works for a favorable social, economic, legal environment for that industry in the United States. I am on the board of directors of the NCIA personally for the past couple of years. Next story is also from Washington State. Their new state drug czar, hired by the Liquor Control Board, Mark Kleinman, formerly of the University of California at Los Angeles, advised the state on how to develop and implement a legal cannabis market pursuant to the wishes of the voters as expressed last November at the polls. He said this week that he favors regulating the amount of cannabis that can be grown by setting an annual quota on total THC production. THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, is the main psychoactive ingredient in marijuana. According to Kleinman, he says, quote, "If the board were going to regulate the amount of cannabis that is produced statewide or on the individual grower level, how should that be done?" he asked rhetorically in an interview with Jake Ellison of the Seattle Post-Intelligencer. He said, quote, "It's no secret that I think the best way to regulate quantity is THC. If I were drug czar instead of the mythical pot czar, I'd get rid of the tax and I'd set an annual quota on how much THC can be produced. I'd auction off those quota rights," end quote. The reason Kleinman refers to himself as a mythical pot czar is that he objects to the term pot czar, which of course makes it even more fun to call him that. Kleinman said his group, Cambridge-based Botech Analysis Corp., is providing analysis and decision support, not making recommendations or wielding power over the process, as the appellation pot czar might suggest. But as I was saying, the pot czar thinks THC is the answer to regulating cannabis grow operations. Kleinman said, quote, "It's THC that has the intoxicating umph. It turns out to matter how much cannabidiol or CBD is in there. So I might want to have a different price for very high ratio strains because that's where you get the risk of panic attacks and so on. But crudely speaking, what people are buying is intoxication, and the intoxicating agent is THC," end quote. Kleinman said, blithely ignoring the complex roles played by the entire symphony of beneficial cannabinoids. Kleiman went on, quote, and instead of encouraging people to pack as much THC as possible into every bud, we'd like them to pack as much value as they can into each gram of THC. It's the opposite problem, end quote, according to the pot czar of Washington State. Now let's think about this for just a minute. If you're a newly licensed recreational marijuana grower in the state of Washington, and the state tells you there's no limit on the number of plants, just on the total amount of THC in those plants, suddenly you have an incentive to produce more lower THC plants instead of growing cannabis with as high a quality as possible, as you would if the plant count were limited. So, in other words, you are in effect at least being incentivized by the state of Washington to grow large quantities of low quality cannabis. Is there a problem with that? Let's get back to what the pot czar says. He says, quote, total THC. Imagine that Washington State now has $1 billion worth of cannabis a year, which is a decent number, Kleiman said. On average, the stuff sells for $10 a gram at 10% THC. THC is $100 a gram. So $1 billion divided by 100 is 10 million. So we're using 10 million grams a year of THC as our limit. Here we have licenses to produce 100,000 grams of THC each, and we're going to take bids and sell them off to the highest bidder, end quote. Well, congratulations, Mr. Pot czar. You've discovered a way to ensure that practically all the legal cannabis sold in Washington's new state licensed stores in Washington will suck.
Seriously, I don't mean to interrupt.
You interrupted them.
I don't mean, okay. But how did this guy get this job?
He was hired by the Washington State Liquor Control Board. He's written a number of books. He's a UCLA professor, and they hired him to be the pot czar.
He's learned and educated.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Our next story tonight, we just got a couple left.
Sorry, but that was just...
is out of the capital of Vermont, Montpelier. Vermont's Democratic Governor Peter Schumann signed legislation into law eliminating criminal penalties for adults who possess personal use amounts of cannabis or hashish. The new law amends penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana or marijuana paraphernalia by a person 21 years of age or older from a criminal misdemeanor, which had been punishable by 6 months in jail, to a civil, fine-only, no arrest, no jail time, and no criminal record law. The law also decriminalizes possession of less than 5 grams of hashish. Vermont's new law is similar to existing decriminalization laws in Oregon, California, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Nebraska, New York, and Rhode Island, where private, non-medical possession of marijuana is treated as a civil, non-criminal offense. 5 additional states, Minnesota, Mississippi, Nevada, North Carolina, and Ohio, treat marijuana possession offenses as a fine-only misdemeanor offense. 3 states, Alaska, Colorado, and Washington, impose no civil or criminal penalty for the private possession of small amounts of marijuana. Vermont's new law takes effect on July 1st. Our last story tonight is a medical story. Smoking marijuana appears to reduce tremors and pain and improve sleep among patients with Parkinson's disease, Israeli researchers reported earlier this week in a conference in Australia. Patient scores on the standard Unified Parkinson's Disease Rating Scale, or UPDRS, averaged 33 before they smoked cannabis in the laboratory and 24 after 24 minutes after smoking, according to Ruth Djetti, an MD from Tel Aviv University in Israel. And she reported this in her presentation at the International Congress on Parkinson's Disease and Movement Disorders in Sydney, Australia. Dr. Djetti said, quote, we not only saw improvement in the tremor, but also the rigidity and other aspects. I would recommend use of marijuana to my patients as the last resort if nothing else worked for them or if they had pain, end quote. Medical marijuana is legal in Israel for treating Parkinson's disease, Djetti said. She went on, quote, all of these 20 patients in her study were cannabis users before we studied them, she said. They were tested before they smoked cannabis in the clinic and then tested 30 minutes after smoking. The patients averaged 66 years of age and had been diagnosed with Parkinson's for an average of 7.5 years. So as many Parkinson's patients realize, and patients that have spasticity and rigidity, cannabis is very useful for that. That's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. And standing by in the wings for all these 20 minutes has been John Cornett and Jan Sue Hurst.
Oh. We're going to do a song tonight by a group called Show of Hands. And this goes out to all the people who, you know, what he said. We didn't see that, I'm sorry. This goes out to all the people who put greed over people. and it's called Arrogance, Ignorance, and
And
Greed.
greed. All I wanted was a home and a roof over our heads, somewhere we could call our own, feel safer in our beds. There was a storm of money raining down, it only touched the ground. With the loan I took, I can't repay, and the crock of gold you found. At every trough you stop to feed, with your arrogance, your ignorance, and greed. I never was a cautious girl, I spend more than I'm paid. But those with something put aside are the ones that you betray. With your bonuses and expenses, you shoveled down your throats. You bit the hands that fed you, and God, I hope you choke. At every trough you stop to feed, with your arrogance, your ignorance, and greed. You're on your yacht, we're on our knees, with your arrogance, your ignorance, and greed. Toxins bring you tucked and sold, you poison every watering hole. Your poverty you exchange for gold. Working man stands in line, the market sets his price. No feather bed, no golden egg, no one pays him twice. So where's your thrift and caution, your honest good advice? You dealt yourself a winning hand and loaded every dice. At every trough you stop to feed, your arrogance, your ignorance, and greed. I pray someday we'll soon be free from your absolute indifference, your avarice, incompetence, your arrogance, your ignorance, and your greed. Cha-cha-cha.
Thank you, AIG. We
That's
love
a
you.
great song. Did you guys write that?
No, that was from a band called
we
Show
just fell in
Hands.
love with it when we heard
I
it,
did
though.
this,
It tells
Show
the,
Hands.
it tells the story, you know?
Yeah, it does. That's a great, powerful song. Welcome, Casper.
Thank you.
Welcome, viewers. We had a long hip news segment there tonight.
I did not mean, but you know, when you guys were talking about the pot czar, you know, you and Dr. Levesque a while back, and Dr. Levesque, without any hesitation, and all the canon in the world said the guy was a ninny. I thought, well, you know, you're overreacting, you're not being nice. But what you've said, if that's the case,
You know, he's always been kind of against marijuana legalization. So
Still-
they hired him to run this program.
well, it sounds like hiring him to run this program was a lot like hiring a nun to run a brothel.
We have a phone call. In fact, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us. That number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. And we have our first caller. Good evening, caller.
Hi, Paul. How are you guys?
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Very well. Very well.
Hi.
He is.
Hi there. Thanks for everything that you do. Thanks for being heroes.
Oh, that was
Anyways,
a greeting.
love the show. I just had a question for you. I was hoping maybe you could help me.
Okay.
I was wondering if you know of any resources for medical patients to find landlords that are tolerant of growing on their property.
Sure. Well, there's some landlords. It depends on exactly what you're talking about. I know you live in one of he lives in the largest apartment complex in Portland, in the Portland area. It's Wimbledon
Square.
Wimbledon
and I was
Square.
surprised when they found out that not only was I a radio show host, but the topic was about, oh, dare I say it out loud, legalizing marijuana. The comment was, well, I think you're going to be needing an apartment facing the sun, aren't you? And I went, why? They said, so you can grow your plants? And I went, no,
Yeah.
I'm in advertising, not growing.
But they allow medical marijuana patients to grow medical cannabis at Wimbledon Square.
But just call in
That's
advance.
one.
Yeah, call it around.
But all you can do is ask. I don't really know resources that I can personally refer you to here on the air, except that, which is the largest apartment complex in town, if you want to live in an apartment. They also allow you to have pets, right?
That's Wimbledon Square?
Yeah, Wimbledon Square. It's right over by Reed College at about, what, 28th, 30th?
30th and Steele.
30th and Steele.
It's in that area,
That
yeah.
would be perfect. Honestly,
There you have it.
That would be excellent. And
A
yes, an
cannabis-friendly
apartment would
place.
be
You can tell them.
absolutely fine.
Now you know.
Tell them Casper sent you in and that you need an apartment facing the sun.
What's that?
More natural light, the better, right? All right. I hope
Okay,
that helps.
that's fine. No, okay.
Okay. We're happy to live here in Portland, Oregon. We sometimes take the R out there and we just call it Potland. But fortunately, we're seeing more and more freedom all across the western part of the United States, the whole United States, and the world.
We got Mexico coming on board. We got legislative bodies now putting together bills and amendments. We got members of Congress that are recognizing the need for industrial hemp.
Speaking of members of Congress, we have a video clip that we're going to roll right this second that shows actual members of Congress, including Portland's own Earl Blumenauer. So without further delay, we'll be back in about 3.5 minutes.
Oh, time to smoke out.
I don't think there's enough time.
In 1794, George Washington, our founding father, wrote to his gardener that he should, quote, make the most of the hemp seed and sow it everywhere, end quote. He wasn't alone. Thomas Jefferson grew hemp. Betsy Ross even made the first American flag out of hemp fiber. In fact, here's a flag right here that's made entirely from hemp. Today, U.S. retailers sell over $300 million worth of hemp-related goods. It's not just flags. Hemp is found in over 25,000 products, from lotions to soaps to protein bars to auto parts to fuel. Yet, somehow it's caught up in a completely unrelated drug war that prevents American farmers from growing this crop and forces us to import it from other countries. Our institutions of higher education can't even grow or cultivate hemp for research purposes. Mr. Speaker, my bipartisan amendment, which I'm offering with my good friends Mr. Thomas Massie and Earl Blumenauer, is simple. It would allow colleges and universities to grow and cultivate hemp for research purposes. Our amendment would only apply in states where hemp cultivation is already legal, such as my home state of Colorado. I recently had an exchange with the premier agriculture research university in my district, Colorado State University. This is an area that they want to get into, but they feel that they're prohibited, and their attorneys are telling them that unless we can make this change, they can't actually do research at what has great potential to be an important crop for Colorado.
We should explore the opportunity to produce industrial hemp here in the United States. This amendment would allow us to take a first step, carefully and deliberately. It will allow research institutions in our states, including my home state of Kentucky, to grow industrial hemp for the purpose of agricultural research, helping provide the information we need to consider future expansion of production. Our states deserve this opportunity to demonstrate the usefulness and viability of this crop for our farmers. Kentucky was once the nation's leading producer of industrial hemp. I encourage and support the passage of this amendment. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back to the gentleman from Colorado, the gentleman from Iowa.
Reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves his time. The gentleman from Colorado.
I yield the remainder of the time to the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer.
The gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. And I appreciate the leadership of my friend from Colorado and my friend from Kentucky in moving this forward. 19 states have passed pro-industrial hemp legislation. 9 states removing barriers to its production altogether. As has been pointed out, these products are perfectly legal in the United States, some $300 million a year, but it just has to be grown someplace else. It's outrageous that American farmers can't produce it, but what this amendment does is to simply permit the research opportunities for college and universities to grow and cultivate hemp for academic and in agricultural research purposes. If this amendment passes and we're able to do this research in agricultural colleges and universities, then we're not going to have stupid talking points coming from DEA, and we'll have misleading statements that are made. People will understand why other countries have been able to figure this out, and the United States will be able. Nobody, regardless of your position, should be opposed to allowing our research colleges and universities to be able to do a deep dive to be able to find out what's possible.
All right. Thank you, Congressman Blumenauer. We want to also thank Governor John Kitzhaber for signing the bill that put post-traumatic stress, makes that legal. Post-traumatic stress patients will be able to access medical marijuana permits here in the state of Oregon starting January 1st. We're hopeful that Governor Kitzhaber will sign Senate Bill 40 that appears headed for his desk, which would reclassify cannabis so it's not a serious penalty and eliminate some disparities in the law. For instance, the one where you go from 29 grams being a felony and 28 grams being an infraction, like a traffic ticket. So we're hopeful that Governor Kitzhaber will sign that. That's Senate Bill 40. And then we have House Bill 3640, which would legalize dispensaries. And so we want, that appears to be heading toward his desk as well. We urge you to contact your state representatives and urge them to pass Senate Bill 40 and House Bill 3640 if you're here in the state of Oregon, and urge Governor John Kitzhaber to sign these two bills, and thank him for signing Senate Bill 281, which legalized post-traumatic, or placed post-traumatic stress disorder among the list of conditions that qualify for medical marijuana permits.
Who comes up with these groovy little measurements where like 2 ounces is okay, 3 ounces, goodbye for 10 years?
Well, it's our legislators in the and through this political process of give and take between law enforcement and ignorant people and some people who know a few things and most of them who don't know anything at all. And eventually they decide what is legal and what isn't legal. And what we're trying to do, of course, is we have introduced these initiatives, the Oregon Cannabis Amendment, which would allow adults over 21 to legally possess, use, and grow cannabis and allow the state to regulate it.
Nice.
And so we're working to put that on the ballot.
And we're going to make so much money doing that. We're going to have a bank of our own.
Yeah, we want to set up a state bank.
And with that bank, we'll be able to encourage businesses.
The state. We want the state to set up a bank so that all public money is invested here in Oregon instead of
get jobs to Oregonians, Oregonians, people who live in the state.
That's right. That's right. If you'd like to get some marijuana petitions, you can go to our website, CRRH, or give us a call at 503-235-4606. We are taking phone calls tonight. We have a few callers standing by. Welcome to the show, caller. Howdy.
Yeah, hi Paul. Hi Casper. It's Nikki from Alternative Wellness.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, hi you guys. I just want to say happy birthday, Casper, and I want to say happy anniversary to my BFF Teresa and Paul Stanford.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 21 years.
I love you guys very much, and I support you guys and everything you do, and I'll see you guys in about an hour.
Thank you.
You know, we do have a studio audience, and if you'd like to come down and join our studio audience, we're down here just about every Friday night at 2766 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Portland. That is 2766 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. If you want to find out more information, you can call that other number, 503-235-4606. Same number you can get the petitions at. You can also get involved in our television show, and we can address any other questions you might have. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Oh, they got a little tired of waiting.
Well, that gives me a chance to address the new employment we're going to be having along the border in Arizona and Texas and California. Apparently, we're now going to hire so many border guards that every 1,000 feet there'll be an armed individual ready to kill.
I think they've already stopped most immigration here. I mean, they say the number of people crossing the U.S.-Mexico border has dropped to just a tiny fraction, 1% of
you know
what
why,
it had
right?
been about, because they've electrified it and drones going over
We've
it.
become more of a Nazi country. They're finding someplace else to go to, like China, where this guy goes to now that talks about WikiLeaks and all. Someplace where it's safe. You can't come to America anymore.
Well, let's change that. Let's take back America. In fact, Willie Nelson has a great song.
Yeah?
About
Roll Me Up and Smoke Me?
Well, that's another one. But he's got a lot of great songs.
I know Roll Me Up and Smoke Me.
I was thinking about that is he's got this one called A Peaceful Solution, and we've got to take back America. I recommend you hear that. In fact, he's put that song in the public domain so anybody could record it.
I also know the song I Got High with Willie.
Or I don't get high with Willie anymore.
Well,
another one.
Speak for yourself. I know the song I Get High with Willie.
Okay, we have some show and tell items I'm going to show you and tell you about, starting with this nifty bar of soap. It's Dr. Bronner's certified fair trade soap.
Now, how can you clean yourself with a plant?
It is hemp Castile soap.
So you can make soap out of this plant.
You can make lots of soap. I've been using Dr. Bronner's soap for a long time. He's been using hemp in this soap, or their company's been using hemp in their soap for about 15 years now. They've been a pioneer.
And do you smell like sativa when you use it?
Company, and you can go into just about any beauty store, and this is hairspray.
Yeah.
Firm hold shaping spray, strengthened with hemp seed oil.
Wow.
So you can get this, and then you also have this nifty product, Firm Hold Gel from Natural, for making your hair hold firmly, I guess.
You can use it on my ears.
Yeah, that too. I was thinking about the hairs on my arm. No, never mind. Here's hemp oil. It's good for you. It's got all the essential fatty acids, the omega-3, 6, and 9. Has 60% of your omega-6, 18% of your omega-3s. It's delicious, has a natural taste, superior freshness. Cold pressed, unrefined, hexane free. It's hemp seed oil. You can get this.
How do you know that?
Online. I'm reading it off the bottle.
Is it tested or is
it's tested?
Is it?
I guess so.
Okay.
It's good for you. It's just as good as fish oil or flax oil. And then here's organic Trader Joe's hemp protein powder. Hemp is a good source of protein that's naturally high in omega-3 and fatty acids and dietary fiber. Trader Joe's chocolate-flavored organic hemp protein powder comes highly recommended. What do they mean by highly? By folks who we hold in very high esteem.
Yeah, baby.
Has 8 grams of protein per serving, 500 milligrams of omega-3 per serving, 10 essential amino acids, 9 grams of fiber. And so we are being fair. Here is Nativa's brand of hemp protein powder. Nifty protein powder, make yourself a shake or a hemp burger, something like that. Barron's magazine says, should the U.S. make cannabis legal?
Absolutely.
And we think so.
I agree.
So Barron's is a financial market week pullout. They're a financial business magazine, so we're seeing more and more of this. Fortune magazine had a big spread on marijuana, and the National Cannabis Industry Association and their associated business group.
Well, and if they did their research, they would know that Popular Mechanics already did a thing called the first $1 billion crop,
Closing
right?
on this.
Huh?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see if we can get, okay, there we go. All right, now I've shown this on this show before, and I didn't open any of these, but a friend of mine who's been on this show recently, Quilt Man, I was sitting with him, and he took out his knife, and he opened up this little package, and I've had it translated. This says Hemp Digestive Relief Medicine.
Cool.
And this is from China. And I ordered this on eBay for about $14 and had it delivered for about $18.
Cool.
And so I opened up one of the boxes, and inside it has these little plastic wax-coated balls. And I didn't open them. I ordered several of them. I got like 5 of them. And then so my friend Quilt Man pulls out his knife and he opens one up. And so I have done so as well. And what we find is it's coated in wax, and inside it's got a little plastic shell, and inside the plastic shell there is a 3-gram chunk of hashish.
Yeah, baby.
And so this is nice, soft, malleable hashish, and I bought it from China on eBay. And so each box came with 10 of these. So for $14, I got 30 grams of Chinese hash that is for edible use. And so I ordered 5 of them. I guess that's 5 ounces delivered for about $90.
Nice.
So about, a quarter pound and an ounce, 5 ounces of hashish for about $90 on eBay.
And can you put that on a pan and smoke it?
I don't know if eBay is going to keep this up with me talk. I figured I should kind of out them anyway. Just, it's good, but
is that the kind of hash?
I don't know. I haven't tried it. I haven't had it tested.
We'll do that
but
tonight.
It's very. I'll let you. Quiltman ate a chunk right away.
Oh, I'll smoke anything.
And he said it worked just fine.
Yeah, well, I'll try.
So
smoking
I trust him. I haven't tried it. I never try any of this stuff. I wouldn't have opened it myself, but now I have. And I found I have these unopened boxes, and I'm not going to open them. I'm going to save them.
Why?
For posterity.
Why?
As a part of our museum. We have 300 medical cannabis items, and these are a new addition to our. But this is a modern medicine that I bought on eBay, and I just wanted to share that with you tonight.
Well, you said you bought 5 boxes?
I bought 5 boxes.
Well, why don't you just put 1 in your library and give the other 4 for me, for posterity?
You can go on eBay. I think if you want to go on eBay right now and find these nifty boxes from China, this company sells a number of other medicines.
Why?
But I can't really speak to the quality of this, except that my friend ate a chunk, and he said it was good.
Wow.
But it's nice, soft, malleable hashish.
I can let him know next Friday what the results were of our smoking.
You can get back to our audience. I'm not going to do that, but you have a medical permit in the state of Oregon, as I have a medical permit in the state of Oregon as a disabled veteran. But there, we have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
So, Paul, is there any truth to the rumor that Willie Nelson's going to be coming to Hempstock this year?
No. Willie Nelson travels with 3 buses and a truck, and it's a big production, and it costs a lot of money, and we haven't even asked Willie actually to come. We've talked about his son Lucas. Lucas Nelson's an amazing guitarist, like Jimi Hendrix, really, and you can see him tomorrow night at the Crystal Ballroom. He'll be opening for another band. But we might have Lucas Nelson. We have had Willie's 2 sons, Micah Nelson and his band, the Reflecticals, and Willie's daughter, Amy Nelson, and her band, Folk Uke, have played our Hempstock Festival. We may have them back as well. But we're not going to have Willie unless Willie really surprises me out of the blue. And that's unlikely.
I invited Paul McCartney, but he's not gotten back.
It's a big production to put all these buses and trucks and 30 people on the road, and he gets paid $100,000 a day, and probably more than half of that is his expenses to keep everybody out there, I would guess. Anyway, but it's a good idea. So let's see. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. Or you can watch us online at ustream.tv and type a little question into the comments box, and through the magic of telephonic communication, we'll get that message and be able to answer it on the air. Today is the longest day and shortest night for those of us in the northern hemisphere, and conversely the opposite for those of you down in the southern hemisphere. But we want to talk about lighting tonight, since it's the longest day and the longest night. And our friend Jorge Cervantes, cultivator extraordinaire from right here in River City, Portland, Oregon, has a film clip. We're going to take this clip and be back in just a moment.
Hey, I've got an idea. Let's talk about a few lights. There's several lights here that I'd like to introduce you to. We've got the 400 watt metal halide here. This is called a compact fluorescent lamp. This one and this one are high pressure sodium 600 watt lamps, and the lamp over here is a high pressure sodium 1000 watts. Right here we have a 250 watt high pressure sodium lamp. Notice the arc tube is long. Next to it is a 250 watt high pressure metal halide lamp. Notice the arc tube is short and fat. The most efficient is the 600 watt high pressure sodium lamp. It's got a higher lumen per watt conversion than any other HID lamp. The lumen per watt conversion is the amount of lumens that are produced per watt of electricity. If we pay 10 cents for a kilowatt hour, and a kilowatt hour is 1,000 watts that burns for an hour, well, we get 140 lumens from a high pressure sodium, we get 120 lumens from a metal halide, and we get 100 lumens from a compact fluorescent. As you can see, we get much more light from a high pressure sodium than we do from a compact fluorescent, and we pay the same amount of money. This is an important factor to consider when you purchase lights. This is one of the largest wattages. It's a 1,000 watt high pressure sodium lamp. Here is the metal halide, 1,000 watt. This has the longest arc tube of all of the metal halides.
For most growers, I recommend a 400 or 600 watt bulb. That's because they can be placed closer to the canopy of the garden. But you'll have to do some research to determine the right kind of light to suit your needs.
We've discussed several types of lighting now. We've got the metal halide, the compact fluorescent, and the high pressure sodium. The metal halide and the compact fluorescent produce a light that's very similar, or a spectrum of light that's very similar to natural sunlight, and the high pressure sodium produce a light that's more like the harvest sun, and it's a bit yellow in color.
The closer marijuana is to a light source, the better it grows, as long as it's not so close that heat from the lamp burns foliage.
A good question is, how do you know what's too close and what's too far away? What's a good rule of thumb to tell? Well, the easiest way to tell is to hold your hand under here. Light fades quite quickly, and it fades to the square of the distance. So all you have to do is move that lamp a little bit closer, and you get a lot more efficient use of your light. If I put my hand down here about 18 inches away, feels fine and I have no trouble whatsoever. So that's a real good barometer, and that's where these plants are now, at 18 inches. Over here on the side, they've come up, but they're still about 18 inches away from the actual light. And here we have a large light hood or reflector with a 400 watt lamp inside. This 400 watt lamp is not nearly as hot as the 1,000 watt lamp, and I can put my hand about 4 inches underneath the arc tube, and it's not as hot as it was with 1,000 watt lamp when my hand was a foot underneath the arc tube. Another way to tell if your plants are too hot is to hold a thermometer under there. Then you can tell exactly how hot it is. We've got 8 feet by 8 feet. If we want to use the entire room for growing, we would put one light here, one light here, one here, and one here. And notice that the growth is fairly even all the way across the entire crop, which is a very good thing. That's what you want to do, is keep the canopy approximately even.
Nearly all stationary lamps have a bright or hot spot that plants grow toward. Yield is increased by giving the growing area uniform light distribution. Rotate plants every day or two by giving them 1/4 to 1/2 turn. Also, move smaller plants toward the center and taller plants toward the outside of the garden. Small plants should be set on a stand to even out the garden canopy.
Spreading the light all depends on the reflective hood that you've got.
Adding the proper reflective hood over your lamp can double growing area, which means growers who use the most efficient reflective hoods harvest up to twice as much as those who don't.
There's all kinds of reflectors. Everybody says they have the best one, but what are the principles that work best? A few things I'd like to say to begin with. One is a hard or a shiny white is going to create hot spots. Any folds or bends in the reflector are going to create hot spots. Mirror images will also create hot spots. The best reflective surface is either a dull or a matte finish or a pebble finish that's a pounded hammer finish. It could be an aluminum color or a silver or a white. It's all about the same. Titanium white's going to be the brightest.
Aluminum foil is one of the worst possible reflective surfaces. The foil crinkles up and reflects light at oblique angles.
Well, Ricky's got the whole place wrapped in tinfoil.
All right. There. Thank you, Jorge Cervantes. If you want to find out more about Jorge's work, you can go to his website, marijuanagrowing.com. That's marijuanagrowing.com. We have a phone call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, Paul. I'm just calling to thank Red specifically for helping my husband out. He had chemo on Monday.
You called last week.
And
Red's sitting
yes,
over here, and she's so happy to hear from you.
And she was able to help with the donation, and we came by there as soon as we got out of the hospital, and it has helped him tremendously.
I'm glad we could do that. You know, it's a team effort on all of our parts for the THCF Medical Gardens, and we give away all of our produce free to patients, and our clinics allow that to happen. If it wasn't for patients visiting our clinics, we would not be able to help patients such as yourself, nor would we be able to finance our work to legalize hemp and cannabis. So we want to thank all of our patients, and we're really grateful to them because they allow us to help you.
Okay. Thank you so much again, and I spread the word as often as I can.
All right. Glad we could help, and best of luck for your husband in his situation. I recommend he find out about high potency cannabis oil and take a good dose of that through his recovery.
She did mention that.
Yeah. All right, great.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're down to about 6 minutes left. We're proud to be able to help people like that, and that was completely unexpected and non-scripted, but that's the way live TV is.
No, Paula Dean's in the news.
Paula Dean?
The cook. She's apologizing for her bad conversation and misbehavior. And I too have to go. I have an apology to make.
Okay.
Okay. And in the past, in talking about Eric Holder, I too have used the N-word. I've called him a Nazi. And I want to apologize to all the Nazis in America for doing so.
No, Nazis were worse. The Nazis were bad.
Oh, well.
You can't say that.
Okay.
We have another caller, though. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, Paul. It's Anna Diaz calling. I just wanted to invite you guys really quickly to our fundraiser for the Southern Oregon 4 next Saturday at Blues Brews in North Portland.
So you're talking about the 4 people who are providing medical marijuana in Southern Oregon. Lori and Lee Duckworth. Who's the other fellow? Davis?
Yeah.
And Jeff Davis, maybe that's his name.
And
but those 4, and that's going to be at Blues Brews. Blues, thank you, Anna. I know you and I both worked on a benefit that Blues did for Oregon's Measure 80 last fall, and I'm very happy to hear that they've got this going on. Is it next weekend?
Yes, it's Saturday, the 29th of June, and we start at 7, and J-Mac and Big Dub are going to be performing, and we've got a full evening of music and a tent for folks to go medicate, and good
What's the
food and
address
good
out
beer.
there? It's on North Lombard, right?
Exactly, 8409 North Lombard.
So it's way out there toward the St. John's Bridge, but it's a very nice venue, and we got to thank Randy Plew and thank you, Anna Diaz, for helping organize this benefit for these people who've been, prosecuted for something the Oregon legislature is about to regulate, with
That's
House
right.
Bill 3640.
Right, I'm sure hoping that's going to pass.
It sure seems like it will. Representative Buckley, the chair of Oregon's House Ways and Means Committee, says that it will, and he probably has a closer finger on the pulse than just about anybody else.
Well, I'm excited to see that happen, as I know you are too. And I hope
There's
you
been a
guys
lot
can
of
come
great
out.
breakthroughs in the Oregon legislature this time and all over the world. So it's a good time for to be alive for people who believe marijuana and hemp should be legal.
Absolutely, and I do.
Unless you're one of these poor people like the Duckworths and others get caught up in in these arrests. And thanks for organizing this benefit. We want to urge all our viewers to go out there 7 p.m. out at the 8400 block of North Lombard to Plu's Brews for this benefit. 7 till when?
Thank you, Paul. 7 till 2 in the morning, so we're going to be there late.
All right. I'll pop in, but it won't be that late.
Yeah,
all right. Thank
I'd
you,
love to
Anna.
see you.
And thank you, Randy Plu. All right, Casper, you have a wonderful radio show, and it's been your birthday just yesterday. I co-hosted your show today. Tell us about your show.
Well, it's on the Roku Network, and it's on AmericanFreedomRadio.com, Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. And please tune in, share it with your friends. Download it at iTunes. Go to Time for Hemp and iTunes. You can download. Also, go to timeforhemp.com. You'll find all kinds of great music and lots of videos that you can share with your friends. So thank you, Paul, for letting me do a shameless plug for the show. And
thanks for coming on and helping co-host. You know, we're all volunteers here, all the people in the control room and on the cameras. There's about 8 people back there, and we have a live audience. So we want to thank all of you guys for helping us sit here
live.
and try to change the world and establish global cannabis freedom. And so if you or a loved one needs some help finding a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit anywhere from the East Coast out to Hawaii and points in between in the legal medical marijuana states, then we have a referral for you. Call us at 503-235-4606. If you are outside of the Portland area, you can call our toll-free number at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. We have doctors and medical professionals who are ready to help qualified patients get their medical marijuana permits all over the United States. If you have any of those conditions there, then our doctors can definitely help. We'll be proud to do it. I want to remind our Oregon viewers that we have a new sponsored petition that's out there, and we're working on those. You can find out more about our political work at crrh.org. That's crrh.org, or at our web portal that will take you to all of our websites at hemp.org. That's HEMP.org. We're out of time. We're going to go back to some final moments of music from John Cornette and Jan Sue Hurst. Thank you, Casper. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Casper.
Thank you.
Well, he's a hit at the hemp stomp rally and a hit at the hemp stomp too. Such a hit for Jan Brownies, and he wants to share with you, 'cause he's the candy man. The sugar shaking bugs making brownie baking son of a gun. He's got a cannabis recipe, coconut